The 21st of June, 2013, was just like any other day for 8-year-old Cherish Lily Perrywinkle. The little girl who had been born on Christmas Eve of 2004 and was described by her family as the best Christmas gift had spent that summer's day with her mother Rain, having her hair washed and helping to pack her bags in preparation for the next day. Less than 24 hours later, Cherish was due to fly to San Diego to spend the rest of her summer with her dad Billy and his new wife. Cherish's parents weren't together, and Cherish lived in Jacksonville, Florida with her mum's boyfriend, and her 2 little sisters, so was excited to be able to see her dad again for the first time in months. The evening before Cherish was due to fly, Rain had decided at the last minute that she wanted to buy her daughter some new clothes for her trip. At around 7:30 p.m, Rain took Cherish and her 2 daughters to the Dollar General store on Edgewood Avenue, a 20-minute walk from their home. Once there, they looked at clothes, and Rain had picked out a little white dress with hearts on it that she wanted to buy for Cherish. But when she took it to the till, she realised she didn't have enough money and had to put it back. Rain only had $100, and this also had to cover general grocery shopping, along with travel to the airport the next morning, so in essence, didn't have much money left at all to buy clothes. Little did Rain know at this time was that there was a man watching her every move. A cashier inside the store told investigators that this same man had approached the till soon after to ask if Rain had put the dress back because she didn't have enough money, and the cashier confirmed that this was the reason. The man then went outside the store to wait for Rain, and when she finally came outside, he struck up conversation with her. The man introduced himself as Don, and went on to explain that he was waiting for his wife when he had noticed that she had put the dress back. He then went on to tell her that he had a $150 gift card for Walmart that she could use to buy clothes if she wanted. He'd just need to wait until his wife arrived with it. The cashier inside witnessed the pair talking for 15 to 20 minutes. Don eventually gave up waiting outside for his wife and said that he'd meet her at Walmart instead, which was around a 10-minute drive away. It was getting late and Walmart would be closing soon, so he offered Rain a lift. Rain at first was reluctant to get inside the old man's van with her 3 young daughters, but it soon began to rain and she eventually gave in and accepted the ride. Don helped her to load her stroller and her shopping into his van, and they went on their way. Rain noted immediately that the van was slightly odd. It had carpet down and blinds on the windows, but this wasn't yet enough to make her see warning signs. Surely, this was an old man offering to help a struggling mother, and soon they would meet his wife. But there was only one problem. Don didn't have a wife. Once they arrived at Walmart, Don took out his phone and appeared to be speaking to his wife about what they would eat. Don told Rain that he'd wait outside for his wife and that she should go inside with the girls and start her shopping, and he'd join her a little later on. And so, Rain went inside with her daughters and began to add stuff into her cart. All the while, the store's CCTV system capturing her and her daughters' every move. Rain began by gathering items, making a stack in the cart for each girl. Cherish had wanted to buy her mother a necklace whilst they were looking at the jewellery, but Rain told her daughter that they were here to buy things for her and her sisters. A short time later, Don joined her as he said he would, but still no wife. Rain asked a few more times if Don's wife was on the way with the gift card, because she knew she couldn't afford the items on her own. It was around this time that Don began to behave strangely. It seemed that Don had absolutely no interest in shopping inside the store and only added a bundle of rope to the shopping cart. Still, alarm bells were not yet ringing for Rain. As the minutes bore on, Don began to show an unhealthy infatuation with Cherish. At one point, he picked out a pair of shoes for the little girl, but upon seeing them, Rain refused to allow him to purchase them for Cherish. This was because Don had picked out a pair of ladies' high heels, with Rain later commenting that they would have been too high for even her to wear herself. On 2 occasions, Don also accompanies Cherish alone to a dressing room whilst Rain is busy shopping. As closing time approached and Walmart announced that they'd soon be shutting off the tills over the tannoy, Don's wife had still not arrived with the gift card as promised. Rain was still in the middle of her shop, so was rushing around trying to get the last bits of what she needed, and her young daughters were now getting restless. In the midst of it all, Don asked if any of them had eaten. Rain replied no, so Don offered to get everybody cheeseburgers from McDonald's. He then asked Cherish to go with him to help carry the food. Rain allowed this because the McDonald's was still inside the store. Rain later testified, "If he would have asked me if he could take her, I would have said no, but because McDonald's is inside Walmart with people around, I knew she would never leave my side." It was after 20 minutes had passed that Rain began to worry. Walmart was now about to close. She had a trolley full of shopping. Don, who was supposed to be paying for her things, was nowhere to be found, and she was stuck. She also began to wonder what was taking so long. Rain left her trolley, grabbed her 2 young daughters, and began to search the store for Cherish and Don. Rain frantically searched the checkouts, the aisles, and the McDonald's, but they were nowhere in sight. She ran outside to the car park, and Don's van had disappeared. Rain later told the court, "I was yelling, 'Call 911, my daughter's been taken,' and no one would help me right away." Around 40 minutes after her daughter first disappeared, just after 11:20 p.m, an employee gave her her cell phone, and Rain was able to call 911. Officers quickly arrived on the scene, however Rain didn't have many details to give to the police. Don was a white man with white hair in a white van. However, despite this very vague description, Rain became frantic when police told her that they were very familiar with Don. It seemed that they had known who she was talking about immediately. This, unfortunately, was because Don, whose real name was actually Donald Smith, was a registered sex offender with crimes dating back to the 1970s, who had been released from prison just 3 weeks earlier. Rain was distraught. Police searched throughout the night, but to no avail. By sheer luck, at 9 a.m. the next morning, a police officer was conducting a traffic stop when he recognised Don's van drive right by him. He quickly pulled Don over, detained him and searched his van, but sadly, there was no sign of Cherish. The stroller and shopping items that Rain had left in his van were also missing. Don was wearing the same clothes that he'd been described as wearing the night before, a black t-shirt and jeans. The officer noticed, however, that the lower half of him was soaking wet. He knew immediately that wherever Cherish was, it involved water. A tip-off soon informed police that Don's van had earlier been seen parked in the nearby woods.
Hi, we're calling about a suspicious van over here, a white van. It was parked behind some bushes. It's not there anymore, but we don't know if he dumped anything because we heard a girl just got abducted from Walmart.
Police were immediately dispatched to the woods and began searching for water within the vicinity. They soon located a creek behind an old church and sadly, with the help of search dogs, were able to quickly recover the body of Cherish in the water. She had been weighted down by bricks and debris. The injuries on her body gave insight immediately into the brutality and horror that had been inflicted on her after Don had taken her from the store. Cherish had injuries all over her entire body. Donald had tightened a gag around her mouth so severely that her gums had bled. He had sexually assaulted and sodomized her and even left bruising on her chest. There was blunt force trauma to her head Ligature marks were found around her neck, and it was found that she'd been strangled with such force that her eyes had bled and the blood vessels in her throat and face had burst. She was also found to have defensive wounds, meaning that this 8-year-old, 67-pound little girl had fought for her life. Donald was arrested and charged with kidnap, sexual battery, and first-degree murder. The evidence against him was overwhelming. There was CCTV that captured him leaving the store with Cherish. He was soaking wet when he was arrested after having just come from dumping her body in the creek, and his DNA was found all over her body. When tested, this DNA had a 1 in 35 quintillion match to Don. Donald Smith's trial began in February of 2018. State Attorney Melissa Nelson told the jury in an opening statement, "Every mother's darkest nightmare became Rain Perrywinkle's reality." When the defence objected, Nelson repeated it louder and more forcefully, promising the jurors, "You will be changed at the end of this trial." Rain broke down in tears on the witness stand whilst testifying against Donald Smith, and the recording of her 911 call was played out to the court, reliving the moment that she realised her daughter had been taken.
I met a man today at Dollar General. He saw that I was struggling to buy them some clothes. He drove us here to buy us some clothes, and the only reason I went with him because she said his wife was going to be here. I was very feeling about him when I first met him, and he took her to the dressing room twice, and I was hoping that she would be okay. And I was looking at the shoes, and I didn't want him to think that I was overly protective. He was giving my 8-year-old too much attention.
Rain said that the minute she noticed Cherish was gone, she had a gut feeling that Cherish was going to die and there was nothing that she could do. The most harrowing moment, however, would come when Dr. Valerie Rayo, the medical examiner who carried out the autopsy on Cherish, described of the 8-year-old's injuries in graphic detail to the court. Injuries so disturbing that she would request a break from testifying as she was too overwhelmed to proceed.
Sorry, I have to take a break. Can I just have like 5 minutes?
Donald Smith's defence attorney, Julie Schlacks, suggested to the jury that Rain Perrywinkle made poor decisions getting into the van. She would cross-examine Rain, but after the mother's testimony, Donald Smith told his attorneys to step down and not do this. Donald Smith had been released from jail just 3 weeks before Cherish's death, after serving 438 days on felony charges of child abuse and unlawful impersonation of a public employee. He'd been a registered sex offender since a 1993 conviction in Duval County for attempted kidnapping and selling obscene materials. Doctors determined that he met the criteria of a violent sexual predator after arrests in 1999, and he had served prison time and been ordered to get treatment. In 2009, Donald Smith was accused of posing as a Department of Children and Families employee in order to get close to a 9-year-old girl. He was arrested on felony charges, which were later reduced to misdemeanors. It seems that time and time again, Donald Smith had escaped the clutches of the law and was freed to repeat his offences, growing bolder each time, once telling a prison inmate that his target was 12 to 13-year-old girls. Donald put forward no defence, and the jury took less than 15 minutes to find him guilty. Donald Smith's son had testified on his father's behalf, asking the jury to spare his life, but it wasn't enough for the jury. He was later sentenced to death. Donald Smith still, however, could not face up to his mother, Patricia Moore, who he lived with on Segovia Avenue in Jacksonville since his release from jail on May the 31st of 2013. He told his mom that Cherish had followed him outside and hopped into his van. He didn't take her, she'd come willingly, he said. He told his mom that he knew he'd be in trouble from his previous convictions, so had no choice but to take her with him. He also put a lot of emphasis on the fact that he wasn't a paedophile and didn't want to be seen as one. He's seen Cherish as more of a punching bag, he said, than a sexual object.
How do you make me go? I don't view children as sexual objects.
In January of 2022, Donald Smith attempted to appeal his death sentence. The US Supreme Court rejected this request, with the sentence being upheld. Cherish's father, Billy Jarrow, later spoke out after the sentence was handed down, saying, "I don't think there is a way to have justice in something like this." Unfortunately for Rain, in 2016 she lost custody of her two surviving daughters, Destiny and Nevaeh. In November of that year, adoption was finalised, and the girls, then 7 and 9 years old, were sent to live with their aunt in Australia. State law mandates that permanency for children is the goal, and most of the time parents are given 12 months to complete a case plan. Rain had the chance to get her daughters back, but didn't meet the criteria. She said that after her 8-year-old daughter Cherish was murdered, she was unable to keep a stable job and was often turned down because of who she was and because people blamed her for what happened to her daughter. On top of that, she was grieving the loss of her child and was in a dark place. Cherish Lily Perrywinkle, who attended the 2nd grade at Chaffee Trail Elementary School and loved to attend Paxson Revival Centre Church, will forever be remembered for the many hours she would spend drawing beautiful pictures for the people she loved. Her love of playing school with her sisters, acting as a teacher, and reading and guiding them. Her smile that will be missed dearly, as well as her great ability to tell jokes, and also her accomplishment of learning to ride a bicycle without training wheels, which she had been very proud of.